All right, good afternoon, guys. Andrew again coming to you today with really more just kind of an update and some headlines that are in the news and everything. There's been an awful lot of developments in the wars and rumors of wars department, and so that's what I just want to talk about briefly. It's not going to be a very long video, but regardless of what you think about the Trump administration and so forth, they have been very tight in controlling information that gets out to the press. They haven't had a whole lot of leaks. The strikes that they made on Iran in June of last year were a perfect example of that. I mean, the entire mission was conducted and nobody knew about it until we were back. I mean, it was amazing. But the thing is that has definitely changed. Something has changed with respect to that because we're seeing, more and more leaks and everything coming out of the administration. The most recent here in the last 24, 48 hours is this information that, was reported by CNN and Reuters and various other outlets that we are running out of weapons basically to use in our strikes against Iran. And we've transferred weapons out of Korea and everything to move to Iran. Um, to be able to use in these strikes, and we're just running out, which partially is being used to explain the reason why Trump on this past weekend gave this dire threat and warning and everything to Iran, but then predictably backed off, after saying that Iran's begging him for negotiations or somebody else begged him to negotiate. I mean, at this point, I'm sorry, but at this point, it's a little ridiculous. I like Trump. I think he's got a long game and so forth on a lot of things, but but there are some things where I think that maybe he's overplayed his hand a bit. Um, and so we see that report coming out of CNN, which and other outlets and everything about the weapons, which creates an interesting situation because now Iran, because we make the threat and we back down and everything, and that's happened multiple times. Of course, they've come out and denied that they have asked for anything as far as negotiations. And since then, we've started to see some movements by Iran. There, are a couple of accounts on Telegram that have and X that have reported that Iran has made movements along their border. There have been some explosions just on the Iranian side of the border with Iraq. There have been troop movements on the opposite, the border with Iraq around Erbil in the north. There's also been troop movements of the IRGC into the area just across the border from Al Basra, which is in that southernmost portion of Iraq. Which is a very narrow strip of land there from Iraq to Kuwait. Think back over the last couple of weeks, you probably have heard some reports from the Kuwaiti Defense Ministry about border installations being attacked and everything in Kuwait by drones and other hostile aircraft and projectiles and so forth. Which it kind of piqued my interest. I mean, why are you going to attack border installations? I was wondering about that when I heard it, but it definitely is looking like Iran might be planning to take some sort of aggressive, offensive action against their neighbors in this war. And certainly invading in Iraq through that narrow little area there around Al Basra will give you pretty quick access into Kuwait as well. And not that that's necessarily what they're doing. It could also be a defensive action, in preparation for what they think is going to be an invasion through those areas, both in the north of Iraq around Erbil and, in the far south around Al Basra. It could be a defensive tactic, but for whatever reason, they're moving troops. And there have been some explosions around that border area as well. So we'll have to see. But one of the things that we know about Iran is that they do not consider this to be just a conventional war. This is, for them, it is a spiritual war. They are absolutely think they've put out rhetoric and so forth indicating that they believe that this is the final conflict, which to their view ultimately brings about the appearance of the Mahdi, or the 12th Imam. And if you look at the description of the 12th Imam in the Quran, it sounds very much like what we consider to be the Antichrist, and so they consider this being a conflict that can help bring that person about and bring that person around, and um, the weakness, frankly, that's been displayed towards Iran, has weakness invites aggression, and it appears that that might be the tool and the tactic that they're taking. We've already seen that in the last couple of weeks with the attack on the American base in Jordan, and other actions that they've taken. They're definitely trying to take advantage of what they perceive, at least, as a weakness on the American side. Now, today, Bubba News on Telegram shared information about a statement from the Prime Minister's office, and actually the Prime Minister's office posted it on X as well. Basically a statement saying that, America's a great ally, Donald Trump's a great ally, but if we need to do this alone, we're going to. And this was a new statement today. I know they said that a few times, but this statement today was in light of a statement by one of the IRGC commanders in Iran saying that they are going to, quote, continue their development of nuclear weapons. He didn't say we're going to start, we're going to investigate, we're going to do, no, they're going to continue, which obviously implies that they had been doing it before, which we all knew. I mean, but it's one of those things where, when they tell you what they're doing, believe them. And so in response to that threat that they're going to continue developing nuclear weapons, Israel and specifically Prime Minister Netanyahu announced that they will continue doing everything that they can, whether with us or alone, to ensure that Iran does not have a nuclear weapon. We've also seen over the last week or so that, and there was a post recently and today, I believe, from Hanania Naftali about mobilization of troops in Syria. Syria has moved troops to their border with Iraq as well, and so the question is, what do they know? Are they cooperating with Iran on something, or are they having a anticipatory defense? In their own right against, maybe people fleeing some sort of aggression by Iran, against Iraq or something like that. Who knows? But what we've seen is these massive troop movements taking place in Syria, positioning themselves along the Iraqi border as well. And then we also had, the news today that just came out today that, and possibly another leak of information from the administration talking about a nuclear strategy against China and Russia involving the use of tactical nuclear weapons, from short range, positions and so forth to stop or defer or not defer, but deter, or anyway, with regard to a nuclear conflict with those countries, and so that's some rather chilling information. Now, again, I don't believe that there's going to be any sort of nuclear war on a global basis until the Antichrist is in power and running the one world government, which I believe is also going to happen during the tribulation, which I believe is also going to be after the church is raptured. My opinion, my belief, but that's what I think. So but it's still, the chess pieces are being moved around the board and everything, and so we also see today that Israel has launched fresh strikes on Hezbollah in southern Lebanon, as a result of Hezbollah violating the ceasefire. The deal that supposedly was being proposed in Gaza or reached with respect to Gaza, Israel has made clear it's like we're not withdrawing until Hamas is disarmed, and Hamas keeps saying, well, we're not disarming until you're withdrawn. So there's absolutely nothing happening with that's headed towards peace. And then we had news today also of an assassination plot. I guess this is yesterday and today, an assassination plot against Trump. Now, it may not be connected directly to anything dealing with the Middle East. It may just be more of the same behavior from the radical left that we've been seeing, but we also know that much in the radical left supports our enemies in these other actions. So, it could be connected. But, yeah, I mean, so just a lot of stuff going on, especially in the last 48 hours. And the pieces are moving on the board. Everything is getting set up. Shadows are being cast to the tribulation that's coming, and to the prophetic wars, that are building, and coming in the future. I believe during the tribulation, and according, and with that being the case, that, according to my opinion and my belief, that means that we're going to be looking at the rapture happening very, very soon. So it's just one of those things. It's not something to be afraid of. God is in control. He's got this. Whether we go before, after, during, whatever, it doesn't matter. God's going to have us in His hand, in the palm of His hand. He's going to be taking care of this situation. And so it's not anything for anyone who is a believer in the redeeming power of the blood of Jesus Christ. We don't have to be afraid of these things. But if you don't have your trust and your faith and hope and everything in Jesus Christ, then I pray that you will do that today, so that you do not have to fear the outcome of any of these events that are taking place, and or that could take place. So that's what I have for now. I hope that everybody out there is having a great day. I just enjoyed a really delicious lunch, and so I'm about to get back to work and finish out the day. But I hope and pray that each of you are blessed, and I love you guys. And yeah, I guess that's it. Have a great day. All right, bye.